In the interview segment, my colleague Yemisi Ibaye had a chat with Mr. Usani, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs.
Welcome to the program, Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Usani. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Can you explain the federal government's agenda for the development of the Niger Delta region?
The first thing to consider would be the background of the ministry, because that in itself has the content of the agenda of federal government. The emergence of the ministry is a necessity predicated on demands dotted by agitations and contentions. And so it is a ministry of specific mandate, summed up and captured as development of the Niger Delta. So the federal government agenda is on anything, any factor, any situation that will enable the development of the Niger Delta in terms of the physical environment, the human beings, social systems, economic viability. That is the agenda broken down into objects. Inherent in that, of course, culminates in the improvement of human living, which of course has several trajectories. And so that is the wholesome agenda of federal government in the region.
Can you give us a few more specifics? For example, how different is it to the last administration's master plan, where they considered infrastructure, health, education, roads, that type of thing?
The agenda for the development of the Niger Delta is embodied in the content of the action plan of the ministry. So it's not meant to be different from any other administration, except that the approaches and commitments will likely be different, and are different, of course. So for this administration, the commitment is to ensure that every resource required and mobilized is actualized in terms of actual execution. And there's no segmentation of the region. There will be equity and just application of everything we have to do, including resource allocation in the region, as well as mobilization of the populace by every social index that we can muster within the limitations of our resources and abilities.
So let's look specifically at one particular issue. In 2011, the United Nations produced an environment program report on oil spills in Ogoniland. This was adopted by the government. What's the present position with the report, and are you looking to provide remediation to the communities involved?
The first unfortunate incident is that from the emergence of that report in 2011 to 2015, there had been no pragmatic step to suggest that the government of Nigeria was ready. But right now, there is an ongoing interministerial committee working to ensure that that report is implemented. It is my fervent conviction that by the program we have, before the end of the first half of this year, barring any security obstacles, the cleanup will begin in earnest. And beyond that, we should also not think it's enough to clean up just the Ogoniland. Niger Delta is vast. The government is extending the cleanup program to all aspects of Niger Delta, knowing what it means to have the aquatic habitat. Even if you clean up Ogoniland and you don't clean the rest of the Niger Delta, it will mean that you have not finished the work. So we are taking all together. So it has come to be executed now.
And what are the mechanics of implementation, first of all, in relation to Ogoniland and then the entire region? Can you give us some examples?
Well, when you talk of the mechanics, I construct it in a different view. What I believe is you're talking about the technology in application, what I perceive to be asking after. We have various options, but amidst the options, I am sure we will also not forget the biogenic systems, which will enable the cleanup not to amount to another cost-bearing element, but such that what is cleaned up can improve the habitat. But what that means is we will obviously look at all the options and see which one is least in cost and best in environmental green agenda.
Now moving to the East-West Road, that's a major road that connects the states in the region, but it's proved challenging for past administrations. What are your plans to develop the road, bearing in mind that the original scheduled date was 2014?
If a project execution agenda was put in place with compliance to the tenets of project management, that project should have been done and delivered by now. Unfortunately, we are at a time where the challenges are so enormous that by our financial capacity, government will find it difficult at this rate to complete that project. But that doesn't mean that government doesn't want to complete the project, in which case we are then looking for options that may include partnership with other agencies that will be willing for that project to be concluded. Because of the psychological notations it registers in the minds of Nigerians, it is a task to be done, and I believe it will be done.
And are we looking at a time frame? Do you have a time frame in mind?
In engineering, under the climatic conditions of that region, it's difficult to take a time frame, because more than half of the season of a year, you cannot go on in construction in the region. This is the reason we cannot give you a time frame. But certain sections of the road, I am certain, will be concluded very soon. The major challenge will be the one that has not been started at all.
Thank you, Minister. And now we'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll listen to the Minister's further plans for the Niger.
The oil and gas industry, which ordinarily should have been a springboard for the industrialization of Nigeria and for the upliftment of the standards of living of Nigerians, has unfortunately become an instrument of degradation and an instrument for the lowering of the standards of the Nigerian people. The Nigerian people have nowhere to go to. They have no other person to go and complain to. They have chosen to come before the custodian of the rights and freedoms of the Nigerian people. This commission will rise to the occasion.